guys. Okay, so today in health, we're going to talk about consent. Okay, so first off, I want to know what you guys know about consent, like what the general consensus is on what consent is.
No means no.
No means no. Good. Anybody else? That's basically what it is. Since we're in health, we're going to be talking about it in like a sexual context. So pretty much consent. So consent is getting permission from somebody to have sex with them. If we talk about it in a sexual way, that's basically what it is. That's the gist of it. It's pretty easy to explain. For some people, it's hard to comprehend for some reason. Okay, so I have two videos that I think like go along with the theme of consent really well. This one I watched when I was an undergrad in college because I'm not anymore your teacher.
Only 1 in 3 Canadians fully understand what consent is. So Western, let's talk about it. Let's think about consent like a bike ride. If you wanted to go on a bike ride with someone, you'd say, "Hey, I'd like to go on a bike ride with you." And they'd be like, "Hey, I'd like to go on a bike ride with you." Boom. Put on your helmet, kid. You're going on a bike ride. You might hear things like, "This feels great," or "Keep going." These are ways you know they're enjoying the bike ride. Maybe not those ones. If they said no, then that's that. They do not want to go on a bike ride with you. You don't toss them up on a bike and say, "Oh, come on, it'll be fun." No is no. And if they don't say anything at all, it's still a no. The absence of a yes is a no. They can say, "Heck yeah," or, "I might want to." And you put on your biker shorts, get the bike, grab the helmets, and in that time, they've decided that they don't want to and start to backpedal. And that's okay. They aren't obligated to go on that bike ride. You'll just have to bike on your own. Oh, and being dressed in bike shorts and a helmet doesn't automatically mean someone wants to ride a bike. It's quite presumptuous to think they do. Even if you happen to be in a relationship with your bike partner, you have to ask each and every time. Say your bike partner has had a couple of drinks, and we're not talking about water. They're not ready to go for a bike ride, even if they told you they are. A drunk yes is not a sober yes, and by law, you need a sober yes. Oh, and just because you bought them drinks all night, it does not entitle you to a bike ride with them. Same rules apply if they're unconscious. The conscious people can't ride bikes, and they definitely can't say yes to doing so. The number one priority is to make sure they're safe. Even if they're just sleeping, they can't say yes to a bike ride. And it can be a scary thing to wake up and find yourself on a bike. Imagine your boss telling someone, "You can only work here if you bike with me to work." That's crossing the line. It would be an abuse of power for a boss or a person of influence to suggest such a thing. And just because someone wanted to go for a bike ride once, doesn't mean they'll want to every time. Maybe it was just a one bike stand. You can't sit.
Okay, so I'm going to stop it there because it's pretty much, you guys get it, right? So in that video, two things that were brought up that I think are super important when it comes to talking about consent are alcohol and quid pro quo, which I wrote that on there so you could see it. So alcohol is very important in consent because a lot of times when you're drunk, like when you get to college and you go to parties, you're drunk, and sometimes like sexual flirtatious stuff gets involved. But like just understand and know for future references that like just because someone's drunk and just because they can't talk, that means that you can't have sex with them. Pretty much. Like not pretty much. Yes, that's it. Like, and that's why like as a woman, typically you have to be careful when you go out, you can't go by yourself. You gotta be with your girls or like be with someone you trust because like sometimes people don't care about consent and it's awful, but it's what happens. So, but if someone's drunk, unconscious, they're not responding, if they straight up say no, you cannot have sex with that person. That is against the law. It's called rape. Alright, so quid pro quo is what they talked about like just 2 seconds ago. It kind of means like you scratch my back, I scratch yours. So in a boss and like employee sort of situation, your boss could say like, if you have sex with me, I'll give you a raise. Or like, if you have sex with me, I won't fire you. Or something like that. That's quid pro quo, and that's sexual harassment in the workplace. It's like just a type of manipulation, I guess, to have someone or to make someone have sex with you, but just like doing something for somebody else to make them have sex with you, that's not consent either. It's bad. you might come across it sometimes, but don't have sex with them. Okay, and then something that comes up with consent a lot is relationships, because just because you're in a relationship, like the video said, with someone doesn't mean that they want to have sex with you all the time. So somebody that could kind of either get raped or sexually harassed in their relationship obviously is not in a healthy relationship. So this is just a cool chart I found on like healthy versus unhealthy relationships. And on the healthy side, I think like the biggest point of this is respect, because like when you really respect somebody as a person, as a woman, as a man, as a human being, you are not going to like take advantage of their body, you know, have sex with them unconsensually, obviously. So I just think that's really, like, if you're seeing these signs, you know, or you're seeing like he or she doesn't care about consent, then this is obviously like not a healthy relationship. And that's kind of the root of some like problems with like rape and sexual harassment, because like even if you're not like in a relationship, like these are still very like unhealthy signs of like the person that you're sleeping with, or like your sexual partner. It's not a good relationship. Okay, and then I have one more video before we get to our little group project, which I think you guys will like. It's a BuzzFeed video, and like it's not like scientific or at all. I just wanted you guys to like see kind of an example of consent not being respected, I guess. We're not gonna watch the full thing, but also if you're like uncomfortable at any point, like you guys can like leave the room or tell me to turn it off. I get it. It's a good example of like what to be careful for, and like just really pay attention to like the body signals, because I think that's a perfect way to judge like if there's consent there. Like if someone's uncomfortable or someone's not talking, just like you'll see it in this video.
It happened, something that you can't protect yourself from. You can't even admit it to yourself. I guess if your body can't protect itself, your brain tries to. Sometimes the word no isn't one that everyone hears. We went to a bar for our first date. He was handsome in a way that intrigued me but didn't intimidate me. He insisted on buying my drink, and I insisted we split it. But before I could even reach for my wallet, his plastic card was sliding across the bar. It went as well as first dates usually go. We revisited the small commonalities we had, things like family and the minor stresses of our jobs. He made a few jokes that I thought were worth a small laugh, but gave a big one instead. After I finished my first drink, he bought me another one. After the second drink, he flagged down the bartender for a third. I could feel myself getting tipsy, getting uneasy. I was 2 vodka sodas in and drinking on an empty stomach, so I told him I should call it a night. He made fun of my early curfew and asked if I drove myself, grazing my knee with his thumb. I said I took an Uber, so he asked if I needed a ride home. I said no, but again, he insisted. He said he wanted to make sure that I got home safe. I remember how he shot me a toothy smile, how I trusted him. I remember how in that moment, I believed him. So I said yes. As we walked to the car, I felt a pit in my stomach, though I couldn't pinpoint why. I reminded myself that he had done all the right things when it came to dating. He showed up on time, he told me I looked beautiful, he held the door. He's a nice guy, right? When we got into the car, I felt the space around me getting smaller. He put his hand on my leg, and in that moment, I realized how alone we were. I realized we were still just 2 strangers. When we pulled up to my house, I told him I was tired. I told him he could pull over and drop me off right there, that would be perfect. He asked if he could come in for a quick glass of water. He said he was feeling the few drinks he had, and he didn't feel like he could drive home just yet. The pit in my stomach was still there, but I told myself I was being crazy. I told myself I couldn't be responsible for a drunk driver on the road. I told myself that it was fine, that he was a nice guy. So I said yes, and I let him inside. When we got inside, I went to the kitchen to get him a glass of water. I wondered if my roommate was home. I wondered how long he would stay. He took a sip of water and then wandered towards my room without invitation, his barely touched water glass sitting on the table. When he got to my room, he touched the books on my shelf, skimming their back covers. He He turned a picture of my sister and I over in his hands, and then he moved towards me. At first, I let him kiss me. I let his tongue part my lips and his hand rest on the small of my back. I told myself I would kiss him back for a few seconds. I told myself after he kissed me, after he was done, he would leave. Then his kisses got harder. His hands moved more quickly. Suddenly, my spine was hitting the door frame. Suddenly, he was being too rough, and as I tried to pull back, he pulled me towards him harder.
Okay, so it's pretty obvious where that's gonna go, so I'm gonna stop it there. But what are some like physical signs and like bodily signs that you saw in that video?
Well, she was pulling away from him like the whole time. She didn't want to be near him.
Mm-hmm.
You could tell.
And what was like he doing like when they were at the bar and like when he was driving her home? Yeah, he was touching her.
We don't do that on the first date.
No, he was being weird, but he was also being like really nice and like bought her drinks and told her she was pretty. So I think a lot of times girls kind of confuse those things with like, oh, he's nice, like he deserves this, he bought me drinks, he deserves this. Like that is, if you are getting what she was getting, she kept getting that pit in her stomach, that means that she's not really she doesn't really want to have sex with him. And like nobody owes anybody else sex, like at all. It's just not, it's not like a good, okay? You can't like, you can't trade it around like that. It's just, that's not what you should do. And it's really awful when some people expect that, so. Okay, so for the last couple minutes of class, we're going to do these like fun group videos. So just with the iPad, okay, with the iPad that you guys were given by the state or whatever, you're gonna work in groups. I don't care how big the groups are at all. So I want you guys to videotape kind of a fun example of consent. It doesn't have to be sexual. If you guys want it to be, if you want to like try to be like really out there and like brave, that's cool. But like it doesn't have to be. It could be like what I was thinking is like, or just in the bike video, like someone rides a bike with you, or like for like little kids, like sometimes they say like, oh, only hold hands, like if they want to hold hands with you, you know, stuff like that. So it doesn't have to be like a super big example, like sex or anything. But I do want it to be real life, because like I want these to be like useful. I want you guys to get something out of it, not something stupid. And there's no time limit, so just make them however long or short you want them. And we'll watch them together at the end on the iPad. Okay, so just get in groups, like I told you before.
Group of 4. I'll videotape.
Yeah.
No. What do you want? Sure. Just have to like later. Okay, what do we want to do later? For our things, I can videotape.
I think, just like when you can ask someone to study.
Okay. I'll tell me when to start videotaping and then.
Should we do like a good consent and then like a no consent?
Sure, yeah.
Who's gonna ask you to study?
Okay. Tell me when to start.
Okay, this is it.
No.
I know.
Wait, what do I do?
I'll just be studying with her.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, one could be the bad consent, one could be the good consent. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Hey, do you guys want to study with me tomorrow night?
No, I'm busy. Sorry.
Oh, are you sure?
Yeah.
I'll have snacks.
No, I got stuff to do.
I'll have Sprite.
I'll pass.
Okay.
Me neither.
Okay.
Alright, good job.
Should we watch it?
Yeah, do you guys want to watch it on Apple TV?
We can try. How do you pull it
I'll
up?
pass on your Sprite. I'll have Sprite.
I put the same pop and Sprite stop. Dude, don't put that. Is it gonna pop up? I thought so. Oh, there it is. Okay. So, oh wait, is this mine? Should I just go? Okay.
Do you have to put like a code?
Should I hit marry? I don't know where I type it in though.
Really? Will it pop up on like my channel?
Does anybody know how to type this out on iPad?
Okay,
Okay, I'll stop that download.
Maybe just. Oh, you got it.
You have to press mute.
Okay.
Okay, we're gonna watch it.
Oh, good God. I apologize for our acting.
Yeah, don't mind. Okay, ready?
Oh my God, my face.
There's no sound, but you guys know what you said. Will you start it over?
Yeah.
This is super good, you guys. I'm really proud of you. Alright. That's common to know.
It's like literally how you would
Not.
not go on a date with someone. That's exactly how that would go.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want.
Love snacks. Pass.
Okay, so that was really good. I really liked how you started like bribing them. Like that literally like happens. Like sometimes guys are like, I bought you all those drinks. Like why don't you want to sleep with me? So like that was good. And just like generally just like the tones of voices you can tell. So like I think consent is really like easy to understand. I don't know why other people tend to not. I feel like you guys know what you're doing considering you just did that great video. So thank you very much. If you have any questions or like you are unsure of something, come see me after class.